It's been a few good months since Starship EVO received an update on the main branch because all of them have been being introduced on the experimental branch instead. Since there's so much new stuff, I felt the need to expand upon the new in-game tutorial and cover the first steps in the game a little bit more in depth. So whether you are a returning player or someone completely new to the game, go ahead and click the like button if by the end of the video you learned a thing or two. Before we head into the game, I will show you a cool trick with which you will be able to get the latest changes in case, or should I say, once they're introduced to the experimental branch. In the Steam Library tab, you just need to right-click Starship EVO and click the Properties button. Then, click on the Betas tab and in the drop list pick Experimental. There are two legacy branches as well, but I won't be covering them because they are there only for people who have been making a build which relied on the techniques that are no longer supported and because they will be deleted eventually anyway. So that's it for the experimental branch, but since it's been carried over to the main one recently, let's switch back to that one. I should have mentioned earlier that Starship EVO is not yet optimized for the low-tier graphics cards like integrated ones, so if your computer doesn't meet the requirements listed on the game's store page, you basically won't be able to play it. Once we start up the game, there's a few UI elements that you should know of, particularly the ones in the bottom right corner of the main menu. From top to bottom, there are patch notes for each version which you can click to expand and click again in order to be taken to their respective GitHub pages. Then there's the list of icons, which take you to different game-related websites, the most important of which is arguably the GitHub, where you can post bug reports and track the game's progress. Also, that's the medium Suna uses the most and sometimes posts some info in his plans for the game, so if you like leaks and teasers, GitHub is definitely a place to keep your tabs on. Of course, there's also the Steam forum and the YouTube channel, which receive frequent updates, but the second most useful link here is the Discord server. That's where the profound majority of the game's community gathers at, and it's a place of support and inspiration I really encourage you to join. And then there's the Twitter and official website, which have been inactive for at least a year, so take my word for it and don't bother going there. In the middle you've got your play, your join server, your options, your exit buttons, but most of the time you will be using the first one since multiplayer is currently and still broken. Once it gets fixed, I'll probably make a tutorial on how to set it up. Basically, it's an old Minecraft style server setup where you had to open your ports on your router website thingy. It's a bit complicated, don't worry too much about it for now. We will tackle the options once we're in the game, so let's jump right in. Basically, your character selection and creation window is not really what it is, because you're essentially creating a world. Then you can leave the seed field as is, because there's no difference between the seeds for now, since all the players start in the same location and there's no dynamic progressive world generation thing, so just leave it unchanged. At this moment, the game might or might have not crashed thanks to its early access charm, so if it didn't, great, but if it did, that GitHub link from earlier might come in handy. You step into the game and you see your character being literally 3D printed in the medical bay. This medbay will be the place you respawn at, in case your character meets an untimely demise. In fact, you can spawn at any medbay, you just have to scan your character inside it. To do it, just place the crosshairs on top of the medbay and hold the F key. Then click the scan button and wait for it to finish the process. If at any point you'd find yourself crashing the desktop or simply going back to the main menu, you'll have to create a new world and replay the tutorials all over again since they don't retain the save state yet. Your current objectives are listed in the upper left corner, but they always stick to the left regardless of the resolution, so for me they are way out there. They often offer some decent tips, so better pay attention to these ones. This section of the tutorial is fairly straightforward. Just use the Jetpack's different modes of movement using the keybinds shown in the pop-up windows. One additional keybind you should know about is that you can use the shift key to sprint both on foot and while using the jetpack. Now you should head to the end of the room and click on the door with the F key, which by now I'm sure you've already realized is used for character interaction. In the middle of the crossing there is an elevator you can use by clicking on the button provided. There are two kinds of buttons in Starship EVO, one of which looks like this and the other one looks like this. If, like me, you have alt-tabbed out of the game and tabbed back in, you probably found yourself down on the bottom of the elevator shaft. The situation seems dire, but there is an easy way out of this. Just click the F5 key on your keyboard and head straight back up into the elevator. This is the no-clip mode, which lets you basically become a ghost. It's very useful for building in tight spaces and getting unstuck, very much like in this situation. The size of the yellow objective icon is resolution dependent, I think, so it's easy to miss at higher resolutions like 1440p, but move your character a little and you'll find it. Once you're there, click on the training center panel, then on the start button and close the window. To grab the block provided, you need to click on the item stand instead of the block itself. Placing the blocks down is very intuitive, but there is a bit of nuance about rotating them. You rotate them clockwise with the R key, but you can rotate them counterclockwise as well using the Shift-R combo. Contrary to what the space engineers veterans among us are used to, that's all the keybinds related to rotating blocks. The only other thing worth remembering about the block rotation is that they always rotate on the plane you are trying to place them on. That means when working on your spaceship, you will find yourself building and deleting bits of scaffolding every now and then to provide platforms on which you can rotate your blocks. A couple of steps further, you will be told to stretch your block, which as far as I know is a feature exclusive to Starship EVO and Avorion. You can stretch a block along the plane simply by dragging your mouse, and you can switch between the coplanar and perpendicular stretching modes with the R key, and then extrude the block away from the building plane. Sorry, that was just my 3D modeling jargon getting the better of me. The takeaway here is you can click R to stretch the thing away from the other thing. Got it? Okay. Then the game tells you to open up the codex, which is the most important menu you'll be using on your Sky Wandering. Here you'll see a lot of blocks you can drag and drop onto one of the 3 toolbars below. For now, go ahead and pick the starter block located at the very top of the codex. It will prove itself useful later. You can switch between the toolbars by holding Shift and scrolling your mouse wheel. And you can switch between the items on the individual toolbar by using the scroll wheel or using the number keys like in every other sandbox building game. You can also get rid of an item simply by dragging and dropping it away from the toolbar, like so. As you've probably guessed, by clicking on the trash bin icons to the left, you can clear an entire toolbar. By the time you hit Escape, the X in the upper right corner of the window, or Tab again, you'll have completed the building tutorial. Provided you've done all the past tutorials in one sitting, the game will tell you to go to the mission board. In this assignment, you will learn how to modify and fly your first spaceship. The procedure is the same as before. Click Start, close the window, and head down the elevator. Once you took a ride on the cargo lift, scale the ramp and get close to the ship. From the item stand behind you, take the items one at a time, since there are some useful tips displayed. The thrusters that propel your ship forward are pretty self-explanatory. As opposed to what every other space building game might have accustomed you to, you don't have to build the side thrusters on every side of your craft. As long as you have at least one forward thruster and another one providing thrust in any other direction, including the back, your ship will have full 6 degrees of freedom. In the context of the tutorial, the spaceship agility means both its turning rate and its strafing speed. Adding more lateral thrusters also helps reducing the drift or the inertia of the craft. The lateral thrusters seem to have a little bit of an advantage over the forward thrusters, but the latter ones offer one functionality that the former ones don't. The boost mode, which propels the spaceship forward around 1.5 times quicker than during the 6 DOF flight, but it comes with its drawback in the form of disabled strafing. It's sort of a spaceship equivalent of sprinting, and it's toggled on and off with the Shift key. Then you got to take a reactor block from the item stand and open up the rear hatch by clicking this button below. Make sure it's scaled to 1/4 of a meter and stretch it 2 by 2 by 1 units. The next step is to take the spaceship core block and mount it directly below the reactor. Then take the yoke from the stand and open up the canopy by clicking the button right there. Remember, you can use the Shift-R key combination to rotate blocks counterclockwise. Now make one last trip to the item stand and pick the link tool. It's used for linking up the logic elements, and in this instance, we will use it to link the yoke to the spaceship computer, which will make our ship controllable. Once you're done, you can close down the rear hatch and go back to the cockpit, and hold the F key when pointing at the pilot's chair. Close the canopy with the button on your left and hold F facing the yoke to start piloting the craft. Spaceship controls mimic the ones of a character, but in case of piloting, there's 2 additional keybinds that will come in handy. One of them is F4, which switches between the player perspective and the piloted ship's chase camera. It also works for the character itself. The other one is Tab, which in this context is used for rotating the camera around your ship in the third-person mode. In the first-person perspective, it allows you to interact with other cockpit elements like buttons or throttles when you're holding the yoke. The turning works a bit like in Everspace, Star Citizen or Elite Dangerous, where you adjust the rate of rotation by moving the mouse away from the center of the screen. If you don't like how sluggish or twitchy the ship is, you can fiddle with the sensitivity sliders in the pause menu, followed by options and controls. This part of the tutorial will give you more than enough time to familiarize yourself with the controls, so go ahead and repair the sections of the station marked on the list. Once you're finished, you need to get back to the hangar and land your spaceship. You can do it by selecting the landing pad itself, by clicking and holding the scroll wheel button, moving your cursor to the request landing text field and releasing the scroll wheel. Then just slowly approach the landing pad and let the game, slowly and nervously, land the spaceship for you. You can get out of the cockpit the same way you got in there in the first place, by holding F. The jetpack turns on automatically every time you exit the cockpit, so click G a couple of times until the jetpack is off. Remember when we drag and drop the starter block on the toolbar and let it be there for the better part of the video? Well, now we'll put it to good use by spawning a light cruise capable ship, so we can actually go places like the Halo habitat for example. But first you need to actually subscribe to one. If you don't know how to use the Steam Workshop, you need to press the Shift-Tab combo and then in the top right corner use the workshop link. Then pick a ship that tickles your fancy and click subscribe. Oh, and like. Don't forget about the likes. Shift-Tab back to the game and click F on the starter block. Actually, nowadays the starter block is mostly used to start new designs, since you can actually spawn your ships using the F8 key and choosing none on the AI mode drop list, but yeah, you're free to do it the old school way. Once you spawn your ship, enter the cockpit and turn your ship like this, and you should be able to see the habitat right there. Now you can hold the L key and light cruise there manually, or let the autopilot fly you over there by selecting the target with the middle mouse button, the same way you did with the landing pad, and picking Engage Autopilot. In the center of the sunny side of the habitat, there are a few leftover ships from the olden days, back when this was the spawn point and tutorial area. If you like any creations that you find in the game and would like to be able to use them yourself, it's a bad idea to export them to the workshop because frankly it's pretty much plagiarism. There is a better way though, and it's called local export. Simply place and delete a block on your creation of choice, go to the codex, click on the things icon and pick export locally. The last thing you change the grid of, that is, added to or removed a block from, will have been used in this window. There are a lot more tricks and techniques to uncover in this game, but I think I will leave them to future tutorials. In the meantime, feel free to watch my other Starship EVO guides, like this one for example, where I cover building your own turrets. As always, like, subscribe, do the usual YouTube stuff, and let me know in the comments what topics would you like me to cover in future guides, especially if you're a new player. I've been Indrasil, and remember, watch this space.